Today we're going to be talking about the rare or blue heroes in Kingshot, but I'm putting the word rare in air quotes here since these are in fact the most common heroes in the game that you will encounter. So this raises a question for a lot of new players. Are these heroes even worth building? The short answer is absolutely yes. All four of these blue heroes are classified as growth heroes. Now there are only two types, growth and combat. So while you can still use them in combat as needed, their primary value comes from how they support the growth of your city. This means that all four of them have a place over the longevity of the game and will be worthwhile to build. In fact, you will eventually have enough resources to build them all fully since the upgrade materials are unique to this blue tier of rarity. So then really the question becomes, how do I prioritize my resources between these four heroes to accelerate my game the quickest? To answer that, let's review each one. First up is Olive. Her hero class is Archer, which indicates how you use her in tactical combat in Arena and Conquest, as well as which troop class is impacted by her bonuses. But let's take a look at her skills. This is the real reason anyone would want to build Olive. On the right hand side, we see that she has two expedition skills, Green Thumb, which increases the amount of bread generated by your city, and Forager's Luck, which increases the amount of food your troops can gather from mill resource tiles in the wilderness. Now I know the description reads bread production speed, but to be clear, this buff only applies for what you gather, not produce in town. The bottom buff also applies when Olive is in the actual gathering party that you send out to harvest. This is different than the top ability, which applies the buff to city food income wherever Olive is in the game world, even if away from your city. And then on the left-hand side, we see the Conquest skills, which relate to tactical hero combat. Olive is actually somewhat decent, specifically because of Rain of Arrows, which likely may be the first hero AoE ability you encounter for Conquest and Arena. It gives quite a large damage buff to her attack, which can be enough to clear all the escort troops around a hero in combat, and possibly the hero itself. This is certainly the case later in the game, when she's twice your power rating and wipes out your team in one move. Not that I'm bitter or anything. She also has a damage buff skill as the second skill, and with these two skills together, she will feel a bit untouchable during your first couple days of the game, and she can certainly help you make good progress in Conquest and the Arena early on. However, after a couple weeks, you'll start getting more shards of other damage-dealing heroes of higher rarity, and she'll begin to be outclassed compared to your other options. For example, here I have her at level 75, and I'm taking all the gear off. At almost max stars, she has about 1400 hero attack and 470 escort attack, which affects the little troops that follow her around in the Conquest mode. Now, if we compare this to Diana, and let me just take her equipment off quickly, you'll see that Diana has over 2100 attack and 700 escort attack. So Olive's combat ability multipliers just begin to catch her up to the base stats for epic or purple heroes. And then the epic heroes also get additional abilities and modifiers. So the bottom line, you can put a few Conquest skill books into her early on and get a jump start, but you should be looking to transition her out of your combat team for better heroes as soon as you get the chance to do so. Next up is Forrest. He's an infantry class hero. And if we take a look at his expedition skills, we'll see that he has Woodland Inheritor, which improves your city's wood output, as well as Master Woodcutter, which improves wood gathering speed of the troops he leads on a mill resource tile. Now these abilities work exactly like Olive's abilities, they just apply to wood instead of bread. And if we look at his combat skills, we get Axe Whirl, which is an AoE attack, and Razor Sharp, which is a passive damage boost. While these sound like good abilities on the surface, they're a bit of a mismatch to his infantry class role. This is because he has to be physically located near the enemy to do damage, which means he will in turn be taking a lot of damage. This high risk, high reward style may be interesting in theory, but as a blue hero, he simply doesn't have the juice to do all that much damage for the first few seconds he is alive. Generally, the role of infantry in tactical battles is to just stay alive long enough for your backline to do the damage they need to against the enemy units. And since his buffs add to offense versus defense, he doesn't really have a place in the lineup, even early game, which is a shame because you generally want someone with that epic of a beard on your side in combat. Next, we have Edwin. the Cavalry class hero, who's all about mining and blowing things up. My kind of guy. His expedition buff should be no surprise by now. Demolitions Expert increases your city's quarry mining income, and stone mining increases resource collection from quarry resource tiles out in the wilderness. This should be a familiar pattern. If we look at his conquest skills, we again see him fall into the same trap as Forrest, where he's more damage output oriented, but doesn't have the base stats of heroes of other rarities to back it up. His shrapnel load AoE sounds great, but is slightly outclassed by Olive's AoE, which can be done from further away, and given the number of heroes you can access at the start, there's really only room for one damage dealing blue rarity hero even early in the game. And his second ability, Detonate, sounds interesting given the stun, but it doesn't work consistently enough at low levels, and by the time you have enough skill books to max it out, you'll have other heroes that can deal damage and stay alive way more effectively, even without a stun skill. So unfortunately, this doesn't leave him any room in any combat team composition, and he hides his face in shame below that helmet. And last up we have Seth, the massive hammer-wielding infantry class hero. Now, if we look at his expedition skills, at this point you should be able to tell me what they do. Burnished Iron raises the mining output at home. Craftsmanship raises iron mining speed out in the wilderness. If we look at his conquest skills though, we see some good news. He has the AoE attack as his main ability, which is okay like the others, but the thing that makes him more useful is the armor enhancement skill, which significantly reduces the damage he takes. As I mentioned, one of the main jobs of infantry class heroes is to stay alive, so this helps him do that role well. In addition, you typically need at least 2 infantry heroes in your formation to hold the front line. Howard, the epic or purple hero, does this quite well, but the only other infantry heroes that can fill the other slot when you start the game are Helga and Amadeus. Both of them require you to spend money to unlock and then build up to any degree of usefulness in tactical combat. So a 4-star Seth will actually live longer on the front line than, say, a 1-star Helga, all else being equal. So given this combination of factors, Seth actually becomes useful in a combat setting until the second generation of heroes comes out, if you aren't planning to spend much in the game. This means he'll likely see combat use for the first 40 to 50 days of the server, and may be worth your investment. So let's put this all together. You have 4 blue heroes that eventually you'll be able to max out, but now you should have a line of sight towards the order in which you build them. For the tactical combat side of the game that focuses on conquest and arena, Seth should be your priority to build, unless you're planning to spend a lot on Helga or Amadeus, in which case none of these blue heroes will matter for conquest. Olive also is helpful in the early days and could warrant a little bit of investment in her conquest skills to get you an initial burst for greater idol rewards, but she'll fall off once your roster of purple epic heroes builds out more. And then Forrest and Edwin, don't even bother using their skill books until you get to the point where you're maxing them out to complete them. Now for the expedition skills, however, you should be eager to build all of them up since they represent permanent buffs in your ability to generate resources and build up tempo. In the first few weeks of the game, the majority of your resources will come from resource production within your city, but over time it takes longer to upgrade each resource building, and you get diminishing returns. For example, a level 28 iron mine might have twice the output of a level 13 one, but it will take you about 2 months of playing to get there. Meanwhile, in the early game, you won't have that many troops or high-level resource spawns available. However, your troops will be leveling up quickly, and you'll be getting significantly more of them, which will allow you to increase your resource gathering greatly. So by a month or so in the game, you will likely see your resource gathering eclipse your resource production if you check in a lot and send out troops often. The implication here is that in the first few days, you can put the skill books towards the resource production multipliers in the top right, but by the time you're approaching skill levels 4 or 5, you're likely hitting a point where you should start prioritizing the gathering skills on the bottom right. Either way, this is a small optimization, as you'll be able to max out the skills within your first 100 days of the game if you're playing actively. And finally, you might be wondering which type of resources to prioritize. Whenever you go to use the skill books, you should think about which resources you find yourselves continuously bottlenecked by. In my case, I found it was more likely to be bottlenecked by stone and iron consistently, but your mileage may vary depending on your playstyle. Anyway, thank you for your support by choosing to watch this video. I hope it helps answer all of your questions about the blue heroes and how to prioritize investment between them. And if you found this time helpful, please like and subscribe to be alerted to other helpful content in the future. This is Strat Game Sloth, helping you game smarter, not harder. Happy gaming.